you ever stopped to think about how the lessons we encounter shape the way we grow? Here's a story that highlights something truly profound about success and resilience. During one summer holiday, a young boy went to stay with his grandfather. They were very close, and the boy loved spending time with him. Every day, they would play together, take walks, and share stories. One day, while they were sitting on the porch watching the sun set, the boy turned to his grandfather with a curious look in his eyes. "Grandpa," he began, "when I grow up, I want to be a successful man. Can you tell me how to become successful?" His grandfather smiled warmly, the kind of smile that held years of wisdom. But instead of answering directly, he stood up and motioned for the boy to follow him. Without saying a word, they walked to a nearby plant nursery. At the nursery, the grandfather carefully selected two small, identical plants. He paid for them and carried them home. The boy followed, wondering what his grandfather was up to. Once they arrived home, the grandfather planted one of the small plants in a clay pot and placed it inside the house near a sunny window. Then he planted the second plant outside in the yard, exposed to the open sky, where it would face the wind, rain, and sun. After finishing, the grandfather looked at his grandson and asked, "Now, tell me, which of these two plants do you think will grow better in the future?" The boy thought about it for a moment and then confidently replied, "The plant inside the house will grow better. It's safe here. It won't have to face strong sunlight, heavy storms, or animals that might harm it. The plant outside could be damaged by so many things." His grandfather smiled gently. Let's wait and see," he said. The boy didn't fully understand what his grandfather was trying to show him, but he trusted him. Soon after, the boy returned home with his parents, leaving the plants behind. Years passed. For years later, the boy, now older and taller, returned to visit his grandfather during the holidays. As soon as he saw him, the boy's face lit up with excitement. "Grandpa," he called out, "do you remember when I asked you how to become successful? You didn't answer me back then. This time, you have to tell me." His grandfather chuckled softly and said, "Ah, yes, but before I answer you, let me show you something first." Curious, the boy followed his grandfather. First, they went to the spot inside the house where the first plant had been placed. It had grown, but only a little. The plant was still small, with thin branches and delicate leaves. It looked fragile, as though it might break if handled roughly. Then, his grandfather led him outside. There, in the yard, stood the second plant. But it was no longer just a plant. It had grown into a towering tree. Its thick, sturdy trunk rose high, and its branches stretched far and wide, casting a cool, welcoming shade over the ground. The leaves rustled softly in the wind, and birds chirped from its branches. The boy stared in amazement. "Wow!" he exclaimed. "It's huge." His grandfather turned to him and asked, "Now, tell me, which one of these two plants is stronger and more successful?" The boy didn't need to think twice. The tree outside, of course. It's bigger, stronger, and so much more beautiful. His grandfather smiled knowingly. "Do you understand why this tree grew so much stronger than the one inside?" The boy hesitated and then shook his head. "It's because this tree faced challenges," his grandfather explained. "It stood through the blazing sun, heavy rains, and fierce winds. Animals may have come near it. Storms may have bent its branches. But every time it struggled, it grew stronger. Its roots dug deeper into the earth. Its branches stretched wider toward the sky. Every challenge made it tougher." The boy listened carefully. The plant inside, his grandfather continued, was safe. It never had to deal with strong winds or heavy rain. It never had to fight for sunlight or grow deep roots to stay standing. But because it was protected from every hardship, it stayed small. It never had a reason to grow stronger. The boy slowly nodded as the lesson began to sink in. "You see, my boy," his grandfather said kindly, "life is much like these two trees. If you stay in a safe and comfortable place, you might grow a little, but you will never reach your full potential. But if you step out into the world, face challenges, take risks, and learn from your struggles, you will grow stronger. You will become successful." The boy thought about his grandfather's words. For the first time, he understood that success wasn't about staying safe. It was about facing difficulties and overcoming them. Challenges are not meant to break you, his grandfather continued. They are meant to build you, just like the storms made this tree stronger. The challenges in your life will make you stronger too. You must face them with courage and determination. Only then will you grow into the person you are meant to be. The boy felt inspired, like a light had turned on inside him. He realized that true success comes from stepping out of the comfort zone, from daring to take risks and learning from every experience. Standing under the wide branches of the tall tree, he imagined himself growing strong and resilient. He wanted to become like that tree, standing tall, spreading his branches, and providing support and shade for others. He knew, in that very moment, that he was ready to face whatever storms life might bring. The grandfather looked at the boy and asked gently, "Tell me, which plant grew more? Which one do you think is more successful?" The boy glanced at both plants and pointed to the massive tree outside. "The one we planted outside, Grandpa." But how did that happen? It had to face storms, strong winds, and animals, yet it grew so big. His grandfather smiled. Yes, the plant outside faced many challenges, but those struggles helped it grow stronger. The storms forced its roots to dig deeper. The wind made its trunk sturdier. It fought to survive, and that made it resilient. Now, even a powerful storm can't harm it. Resting his hand on the boy's shoulder, the grandfather spoke softly. "Remember this, my boy. If you always choose the easy and comfortable path, you won't grow. You might feel safe, but you'll never discover your true strength. But if you face life's challenges bravely, no goal will be too big. Don't see problems as barriers. See them as steps toward success." The boy looked again at the two plants. The one inside was small and fragile. The one outside was tall and powerful, its branches stretching wide. He took a deep breath, beginning to understand his grandfather's lesson. "So, the struggles we face in life help us grow stronger?" the boy asked. His grandfather nodded. "Exactly. The obstacles in your life aren't there to stop you. They're there to teach you and make you stronger. Every challenge you overcome prepares you for something greater." The boy thought for a moment. "Life is like an adventure," his grandfather continued. "It's full of unexpected twists and turns that seem like barriers. But those barriers are like puzzles waiting to be solved." The boy tilted his head, thinking. "Remember when you play your favorite games?" his grandfather asked. "What's the most exciting part?" "Beating the hard levels," the boy replied with a smile. His grandfather chuckled. "Exactly. The tough parts make the game fun. Life is the same. Every problem, every setback is like a hard level. It's difficult, but once you figure it out, you become stronger and wiser." The boy's smile widened, beginning to see life's challenges in a new light. "Don't let obstacles scare you," his grandfather said. "Welcome them. Face them with courage. Every time you overcome a challenge, you grow. Just like this tree didn't grow by hiding from storms. It grew because it faced them." The boy stared at the great tree, its branches swaying in the wind. "But Grandpa, what if the challenges are too hard? What if I fail?" the boy asked softly. His grandfather smiled kindly. "Failing is part of growing. Do you think this tree never lost a branch in a storm? Of course it did. But it didn't stop growing. It healed, grew stronger, and stood taller. You will fail sometimes, and that's okay. What matters is that you get back up and keep moving forward." The boy slowly nodded, realizing that failure wasn't something to fear. "Every failure teaches you something," his grandfather continued, "and every lesson brings you closer to success. Don't be afraid to make mistakes. Be afraid of not trying at all." The boy looked up at the sky through the tree's thick branches and took a deep breath. "The strongest people aren't those who had an easy life," his grandfather said. "They're the ones who faced challenges, fell down, and got back up. That's how strength is built." The boy listened closely, feeling his grandfather's words sink in. "You have the strength to face anything," his grandfather said. "Every challenge is a chance to grow. Don't run from difficulties. Face them, learn from them, and let them make you stronger. The boy smiled, his eyes full of determination. You have the heart and the spirit to conquer anything, his grandfather said proudly. The boy looked once more at the tall, unshaken tree. He understood now. Life's challenges weren't there to break him. They were there to build him. And at that moment, standing under the wide branches of that strong tree, the boy knew he was ready to face the storms, ready to grow. Life is full of challenges, but those very challenges are what help you grow and move closer to success. Just like the tree that grew stronger by facing storms, you too can rise above any obstacle if you face it with courage and determination. Don't fear failure and don't avoid difficulties. Embrace them as opportunities to learn, grow, and become the best version of yourself. You already have the strength, determination, and spirit to overcome anything that stands in your way. Believe in yourself and keep pushing forward because no dream is too big when you're willing to chase it with everything you've got. If this story inspired you, don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more powerful life lessons and motivational content. Let's continue growing, rising, and conquering every challenge together.